You know, Floridians really have a passion for just, the world that we live in, our beaches, our friends, our commitment to our state. And I don't know if it's unique, but it's certainly something that draws me in and makes me feel home here.
I think you can choose to be a Floridian. I think if you love and appreciate what this state has to offer, and it has an incredible amount to offer, in my opinion. I just think it's incredible, from the natural beauty, and that's the sable palms, which are not really native, but they've done very well here as well. To the alligators, to our swamps, to the beautiful beaches, of course, and the resources that we have here they're incredible. I love our natural resources. I love Florida.
Well, first of all, it makes you a very lucky person to have the privilege of living in a place with such stunning natural beauty, with such diversity, with such promise. But it also comes with a pretty significant responsibility to be the best steward of your time in this special place.
Born in Cuba, grew up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, been in Florida, specifically South Florida, since I was 12. I'm going nowhere else. I will live here hopefully the rest of my life. I absolutely love it. I love it in South Florida. We left Cuba as exiles in 1961 when I was 2. I landed in Philadelphia. Parents decided after about 10 years, and another sibling of mine, so I'm the oldest of 3, they said, well, it's too tough to raise these kids up north. They decided to be snowbirds and move south, and that's what brought us, like many folks, we came from somewhere else to Florida. After being here for almost 40 years, I feel like I'm a native.
I was born in Panama City, Florida, and lived there until I was 10. I've spent a lot of time outside the state, I think, which has increased my appreciation for Florida, but I'm a Floridian.
My Florida story is not unlike many other people. I came here as a young kid, the son of working class parents from the inner city of New York, who were looking for simply a better quality of life for their children. There were really not many economic opportunities in a early 1970s Florida economy for a working class family. There really was no working middle class in Florida. The education system was fledgling. Again, there were no economic opportunities that existed outside these a couple of very large population centers in Florida. We've made significant progress as a state. I'm going to stay here to be a part of the fight for the future of Florida, to be a part of the competition of ideas, really, that I think it's going to take to continue to move this state ahead. There are many daunting challenges, but what keeps me here is to be a part of that fight.
They certainly share our feeling, my wife's and my feeling about Florida. We really love Florida. They share that. They've grown up with that. We lived in Missouri for 4 years, and it was really nice, a lot of great people, but it was not home. And they lived in North Carolina as well, and other places. I think they've been exposed to a lot of other places. I think they have grown to love it the same way. There certainly are concerns what will be going on in our state in 30 years. But I think it would be their choice to be here.
I think the point that you made about just the number of people that have decided to move to Florida and make Florida their home. I mean, Florida's a state that's very accepting to people coming from other areas, and we appreciate that we're enriched by the people that come here and make this, home. It's not like any other state that I've ever been in, and I'd like to see it stay that way. I'd like to see us continue to grow and continue to be accepting of other ideas and growth concepts, and what do we want to invest in Florida. I think Florida has always been open to new ideas and to change, and I think I'd like to see that stay the same. In terms of what I'd like to see changed, I'm not sure that I know what that is at this point. I mean, I love this place. This is home for me, and as far as I'm concerned, it will always be home. So I like it the way that it is, and you know, I hope that it continues to grow and be enriched, but I'm not sure that I'd like to see any significant change.
To me, I think that's too narrow a focus. You can't have positives without having negatives.
Right.
We're a work in process. You know, while the state, we date back to Ponce de Leon and our founding, you know, we're young, really young from an urban standpoint, young from development as a state. The folks up north have had many more decades to deal with issues that we're still dealing with here.
Right.
South Florida, Miami itself is only about 120 years old. So with that comes challenges, but we've risen to a lot of challenges in this state, at least in the 40 years that I've been here, and I'm sure we'll rise to the next one. You can't have the good without some of the bad.
Absolutely.
So I'm not proposing the world according to Mario's not, let's make this change and it'll all get better.
What I would change about Florida is our perspective. I think we need to take a longer view about protecting all of that which makes us special in the state, while fundamentally rethinking who we want to be when we grow up. I don't think our economy can be entirely based upon creating a place where someone can live on a Social Security check. Our state needs to work for families. When it works for families, it's going to work for businesses, it's going to work for seniors, it's going to work for tourists. We need to be willing to make appropriate investments in infrastructure, in our education system, if we're going to be competitive in a global economy.
Well, you have to start with natural resources. You hope that our natural resources will be protected. There are a lot of people who understand that we have to protect those, but there are also people who think that other things maybe are more important. And I understand we've got to have a solid economy. We have to have jobs. We have to have a good economic engine that we all need. But Florida's key is its natural resources, and I hope that we continue to protect those. There's a lot of things going on. Ranch land there's a lot of ranch land in Florida, and that I think is one way that a lot of our natural resources are being preserved, yet has some economic benefit. I hope that we can continue to manage that balance like we're seeing in that example. Obviously, our beaches are important. That's a huge concern. That's a big attraction that drives the economy of Florida. But it's more than that. It's some of the flatlands and Payne's Prairie, and certainly beyond just the beautiful beaches of Florida.
Well, you know, I know that the opening of the Panama Canal is one that a lot of people have their eyes on. And I think there's been a lot of planning for that event. I think the game changers that will really impact us in a negative way are the ones that we don't anticipate.
Well, I think we're in the middle of one right now, and that's the funding and budget deficits. I think it's a huge issue. Mm-hmm. I think speaking from a purely regional, from an economic standpoint, we're in the throes, and as you and I were discussing earlier, of still a bumpy economy.
Sure. And
where are we going to get jobs? Jobs are a big issue. So between the deficit issues we have at the state, where we're going to create jobs in Florida, I think we're living those two issues now. Mm-hmm. From a more macro standpoint, you always have whatever could happen in Cuba and how that would impact Florida, because we're clearly on the cutting edge of whatever happens.
Sure.
There. Okay, but that's a bigger picture issue, and unfortunately, change there has taken way too long.
Right.
When it happens, I mean, remember South Florida, we dealt with Mario, and we dealt with the Sandinistas in Nicaragua, and we dealt with the Haitian refugees of the '80s.
Sure.
And boy, that was quite an issue for this state and this community. But we went through it, mm-hmm. held our heads up, and we went through it. You know, we have no direct international border, but our water creates quite an international border from a lot of places. So it's a very interesting place. But that's macro, bigger picture. In the meantime, we got to deal with jobs, and we got to deal with our funding deficit issues.
Well, I think Cuba opening up, which I don't know if that's what you're referring to, but Cuba, the possibility of Cuba opening up, I think could actually be positive for Florida, because I think it could attract more people to the region. And if people from Europe are going to Cuba, why not hop up to Miami or to Orlando? I think a lot of the studies that I have seen indicate that there's a good likelihood that Florida could get a lift from that additional interest in Cuba. And Cuba certainly has some infrastructure issues that will take a long time. So I think people, they may go to Cuba, plan to spend some time there, and I think it will bring more people to Florida, and they will see what great resources we have here.
I think the next major issue confronting Florida will likely be one that we've confronted in our past. Florida's been called a state which is in a constant state of reform, yet the solutions to the chronic problems that we face have been hard to come by. I think our biggest challenge is going to be to take a close look, a hard look, a serious look at Florida's tax structure. Our tax structure is unsustainable, it's antiquated, and most people recognize this. It is supported by an emaciated corporate income tax. It's supported by a general sales tax, which has large loopholes in it. We need to be willing to stare the facts in the face if they're not going to sneak up on us and stab us in the back in this state. We've got to be serious about confronting problems like our tax structure. It's the lifeblood of this state.
Budget deficits that are huge and have to be dealt with. Governor Scott's trying to deal with some of them. Some folks agree with how he's doing it. Some folks don't agree. What I think everybody agrees with is we need to make sure we don't have holes in the bottom of the bucket.
Absolutely. How
How we deal with it, that's a democracy. It's messy, but there's no better system, right?
That's right.
But certainly budget deficits and funding are issues. We're going to be the third largest state in the union in terms of population within 8 or 9 years, according to demographers, and with that are going to come issues both positive and negative.
Sure.
We're going to have to deal with those intelligently.
Absolutely.
And we need to act as one state, not as 3 different states.
I think a lot of things beyond our control could certainly affect Florida. And the national debt. How will the national debt impact Florida? How do we deal with that as a country, and what will be the ultimate impact on Florida? I think that's a huge concern. And how will that affect the U.S. position in the global economy? And will Florida continue to be a good destination? Right now I think it's a great destination because it is beautiful, it has the natural resources, and it's affordable for a lot of people. Can we continue to offer that? I don't know. I don't think we know how those forces will play into it, but it's a concern.
It's, a hurricane that we never expected to hit a certain area, or that damages our economy in a way that we can't quite recover. I think those are the unexpected crises are the ones that will really hurt us.
Well, we've got some big issues. The insurance issue is massive. We've been lucky; no major storms hit the U.S. in 5 years. That could change everything. We could easily see 2 hurricanes hit Florida in a year. It could be devastating to us. That's a huge concern. Our educational system. I've seen some improvements, but I still have some concerns there. We've got to be very conscious of moving Florida forward the right way.
Despite the heat, people want to be here on our beaches. They want to come to the theme parks. It's a wonderful place to boat. It's a wonderful place to be outdoors. And if we have a significant change that we don't expect and plan for in our economy that impacts tourism, I think that's where we'll be harmed the most.
I think we can if we're deliberative about the process. It won't just happen. I think we have to make it happen.